Picture, if you will, a late summer evening many years ago. A Super Nintendo sits underneath the television in a makeshift setup in a family member's basement. The din of family conversating upstairs can only be faintly heard as my much younger self pushed the clunky switch on to boot up the console. Inserted was a game I'd only ever seen mentioned in magazines or whispered about in schoolyards. I was about to step into the dark, chaotic, and aggressive world of Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 for the very first time, and I would never be the same. Okay, dramatic personal anecdotes aside, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 is a seriously important game to me. Actually, despite its status as a fairly well-regarded and known entry of the Mortal Kombat franchise, I feel like Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 specifically falls into a memory hole for some, a somewhat forgotten game that's only usually ever referenced nowadays by cameos or plot beats adapted into other mediums. But I'm here to tell you why this game kicks ass, why it's probably absolute peak Mortal Kombat for me, and everything else you could possibly want to know about this game, inside and out. From the searing desert to the graveyard and beyond, we'll touch on everything from gameplay, story, tips, and secrets. Plus, I'll throw a little of my own personal relationship and experience with this game and franchise as a whole in along the way. Oh, and just as a quick side note, I'll be talking about Mortal Kombat 3 and Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 as a complete package, so if you see something later on that applies only to the vanilla version of 3, that is why. But before we get to all that, let's take a moment to back up and really get some perspective. On April 15th, 1995, the hotly anticipated next installment of the Mortal Kombat franchise, Mortal Kombat 3, released into the arcade market. The very same year, the franchise was also slated for a major motion picture blockbuster. The game was instantly popular, reportedly being the most consistently played arcade game by May of 1995. Being the recipient of the American Amusement Machine Association's Diamond Award, an award given out strictly on sales achievements, and being the highest grossing arcade conversion kit of 1995 as well. Despite its appeal, however, rumblings began surfacing amongst fan groups the more they got familiar with the game. The backdrops were city streets, not ancient temples, and gone were fan favorites like Scorpion and Katana. Instead, what we had was a new cast of strange characters and new takes on familiar faces, set amongst apocalyptic ruins. It was a radical departure for sure, and while many found it fun and engaging, many more were yearning for the fighters they'd grown to love. As 1995 neared its end, a new game emerged on the horizon. New in quotes. The developers had heard the fans, so it seemed, and Mortal Kombat 3 was due for an upgrade. Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 was unleashed onto arcades on October 6, 1995, and came with a whole slew of surprises, including balance patches and an expanded roster. So now that we have some context as to why this game exists at all in the first place, let's take it apart piece by piece and examine what makes it such a special game. To understand the plot of Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, we must briefly chart the events that have led us to this point. Thousands of years ago, an order of the wisest men from the Far East received visions of a dark and chaotic realm. This realm, ruled by the vicious Emperor Shao Kahn, came to be known as the Outworld. The wise men knew that travel between the Dark Realm and Earth would one day be possible if the conditions were right. Those conditions being the unbalancing of the Furies, negative and positive forces which keep our unstable universe from collapsing onto itself. Knowing that the imminent Outworld invasion would prove too much for Earth, the wise men appealed to the Elder Gods. It was for this reason that the tournament called Mortal Kombat was created. Through this contest, we were not only protecting the safety of the realm, but the existence of our souls. For centuries, Earth has used Mortal Kombat to defend itself against Shao Kahn. But Kahn becomes frustrated by failure, most recently his defeat at the hands of Shaolin monk Liu Kang. Kahn then decides to enact a plan that began almost 10,000 years ago. It was during a time when Kahn had a queen. Her name was Sindel, and her death was early and unexpected. Kahn's shadow priests, led by the sorcerer Shang Tsung, would make it so Sindel's spirit would someday be reborn, not in the outworld, but on the earth itself. This unholy act, serving as a twisted merging of the kingdoms, allows Shao Kahn to step through the dimensional barrier and reclaim his queen, thus enabling him to finally seize the earth. Shao Kahn proceeds to strip the planet of nearly all human life. He claims every soul as his own. Slowly, the earth begins to transform into the outworld itself. But there are human souls that Shao Kahn cannot take. These souls belong to the warriors chosen to represent Earth in the most vital Mortal Kombat yet. These warriors are scattered throughout the planet, and Kahn sends an army of fierce outworld warriors to find and eliminate them. Some of Earth's warriors survive the attacks. Most do not. But the remaining few hold the one chance at saving all of humankind. Christ, man, heavy stuff. Looks like we've got a lot on the line here. But this is the dividing line between this installment and those that came before it, and what puts Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 on a level unlike anything the franchise has given us. This is not a tournament any longer, bound by rules, tradition, and honor. Gone are any sense of fighting fair or maintaining a facade of goodwill. In their place is rage, brutality, and a desperate battle for survival. The streets and cities stand desolate as Kahn's glowing tower looms ominously in the distance. This isn't just a conflict of ideals or even a fight for territory anymore. This is a world already lost, the playable characters the last strand of hope left. Speaking of...
Liu Kang.
After the Outworld invasion, as the current reigning Mortal Kombat champion, Liu Kang finds himself the prime target of Shao Kahn's extermination squads. Of all the humans, Liu Kang poses the greatest threat to Shao Kahn's menace.
Sonya.
After having been rescued by Jax during the events of the last game, Sonya returns with Jax to base to warn the United States military about the impending Outworld invasion. Lacking substantial proof, she is helpless to watch as the invasion unfolds.
Jax.
After failing to convince his superiors and the government of the coming menace, Jax begins to covertly prepare for the future by outfitting his arms with indestructible bionic enhancements.
Sub-Zero.
The younger Sub-Zero returns to fight for Earth once more, this time unmasked. After refusing to participate in the cyber initiative that would see him and his compatriots converted into cyborgs, Sub-Zero was crossed by his own clan and marked for extermination, while his ally Smoke was captured and converted. Unlike the pursuers of old, Sub-Zero's would-be killers are now cold-blooded machines. Sub-Zero must not only fight to defend his realm, but elude his soulless assassins.
Kung Lao.
After the massacre that saw most of his Shaolin brethren slain, Kung Lao vows to reform the White Lotus Society. He doesn't get the opportunity, as Shao Kahn's forces invade and dominate the Earth before he gets the chance. As a chosen warrior, Kung Lao must use his greatest skills to survive if he ever plans on rebuilding.
Nightwolf.
Working as a historian and preserver of the Motoka tribe when Shao Kahn invades, the young man who is to become Nightwolf dons the mantle and uses his knowledge of magic to safeguard his people's land. This area quickly becomes a major threat to Shao Kahn's rule.
Kitana.
Kitana is accused of treason by the high courts of Outworld after murdering her twin sister Melina. Shao Kahn appoints a specialized group of warriors to track Kitana down and bring her back alive. Kitana, however, is intent on finding a way to reach the recently resurrected Queen Sindel and warn her of her true past.
Striker.
When portals opened over New York City and caused panic and chaos to rage out of control, Riot Control Brigade leader Curtis Stryker finds himself the lone survivor in a city once populated by millions, and decides to use his newfound status as a chosen warrior to rally and protect his realm.
Cabal.
His true identity is the ultimate mystery. It is believed he is the survivor of a vicious attack by Shao Kahn's extermination squads. As a result, he is now grotesquely scarred and kept alive by artificial respirators in a rage for ending Shao Kahn's conquest. Before the invasion, Cabal lived a life of crime as part of the Black Dragon clan.
Scorpion.
Although not technically a hero or villain in this conflict, I'll slot Scorpion in here. When Shao Kahn makes a botched attempt at stealing the souls that reside in Hell, Scorpion is able to escape the pits and return to the living world, a wild card in Earth's struggle for survival.
Sindel.
The recently resurrected Queen Sindel operates under Shao Kahn's control, but the truth is much darker. Sindel's true king was named Jared, and together they are the parents of Princess Kitana, ruling as a family over the realm of Edenia. However, Shao Kahn one day invaded and killed King Jared, claiming Sindel as his bride and taking Kitana as his stepdaughter. In turn, Sindel, unhappy with her position, would end her own life in defiance.
Shang Tsung.
As Shao Kahn's lead sorcerer, Shang Tsung once fell out of favor with his emperor after failing to claim the Earth via mortal combat. Despite his apparent failure, the conniving sorcerer manages to become a key part in this new scheme.
Shiva.
Enlisted by Kahn as Sindel's personal protector, Shiva begins to grow suspicious of Shao Kahn's loyalty to her race, the Shokan, due to Kahn placing Motaro at the head of his extermination squads. In Outworld, the Shokan and the Centaurs are natural enemies.
Jade.
When the renegade Princess Kitana makes her escape to unknown regions of the Earth, Jade is appointed by Shao Kahn to bring her in alive. Once a close friend of the princess, Jade is now forced to choose between loyalty to her friend and loyalty to her emperor.
Reptile.
Always a reliable servant, Reptile is chosen to assist Jade in capturing Princess Kitana. In contrast to Jade's instructions to bring Kitana back alive, Reptile is told to apprehend the renegade princess at any cost, even if it means her death.
Kano.
Thought to have been killed during the events of the original tournament, Kano is found alive in Outworld and once again eludes capture at the hands of Sonya Blade. Before the invasion, Kano manages to convince Shao Kahn to spare his soul. Kahn needs someone to teach his Outworld warriors how to use the advanced weaponry of Earth, and Kano is the man to do it.
Sector.
Sector is actually the codename of Unit LK-9T9, the first of 3 prototype cybernetic ninjas built by the Lin Kuei. Sector was once a human assassin who volunteered for automation because of his strong loyalty to his clan. More machine now than man, Sector survived the Outworld invasion, where he and the other robots no longer possess a soul, allowing the cybernetic warriors to pass undetected by Shao Kahn.
Cyrax.
Cyrax is Unit LK-4D4, the second of 3 prototypes. Like his counterpart Sector, Cyrax's most recent mission is to find and exterminate the rogue ninja Sub-Zero.
Smoke.
Smoke is LK-7T2, the 3rd prototype, and former ally of Sub-Zero before his automation. However, Sub-Zero holds out hope that his former ally's true soul still resides somewhere deep within the robot.
Motaro.
In the realm of Outworld, Motaro's race of centaurs have long come into conflict with the Shokan, the race of 4-armed half-dragons that includes the like of Goro and Shiva. When Shao Kahn assembles his extermination squad to eliminate the chosen heroes, he appoints Motaro as the head of this elite group of savage warriors.
Shao Kahn.
And of course, we have to mention the Emperor Shao Kahn himself. responsible for throwing the world to the brink of oblivion after reclaiming his queen. Khan will stop at nothing to claim the Earth Realm as his own. Despite its inherent 90s-ness, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 presents a very strong visual language. This game is rich with detail and interesting environments that all help emphasize the mood and tone the story is meant to convey. Unlike other fighting games that have bustling crowds of onlookers, familiar day-to-day places like banks, the subway, and city streets are now desolate and devoid of life, standing as hollow monuments of a now nearly extinct civilization. Places like the church and graveyard, locations never meant to see battle, are just as viable a location to fight in Earth's desperate struggle for survival. Then we have Motaro's Lair, the Pit 3, and Soul Chamber, all portions of the Outworld itself that are growing like a cancer and rooting in our world. This is to say nothing of Shao Kahn's immense and ominous tower, positioned in the middle of the city, which you must fight your way to and ascend for the chance to defeat the Emperor. All of the characters are visually striking and unique, and yes, Unmasked Sub-Zero is awesome before you ask. Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 utilizes a vast and unique color palette, many areas using oranges and reds to help better convey the apocalyptic vibe, while contrasting in certain stages with the vibrant green of souls being siphoned. But all of this would mean nothing without... Without the sound design of UMK3, the experience of this game would be nowhere near the same. Much in the same way John Carpenter's iconic Halloween score enhanced that film's scares, it's the music that sells the whole package. In my humble opinion, Midway composer Dan Forden, or is at the absolute peak of his abilities in composing Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. His tracks are varied and unique, but all share one through line in common: a dark, droning beat that both gets the heart pumping and conveys a sinister vibe.
You try to imagine the action of playing the game and what the music's gonna do to get you revved up.
One of my favorites is from The Church, an orchestral, mournful sounding track that is accompanied by disembodied chants. It's creepy, sweeping, and sounds like it wouldn't be out of place in a Castlevania game. That said, the track I think exemplifies the game's overall tone the best is the one utilized on the bridge stage. It's fast, droning, and conveys a real sense of urgency for the matter at hand. Whether you consciously register it or not, there's a good chance that the music of this game has kicked your adrenaline into overdrive while playing. Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 succeeds in making the player feel the brutal, anxious desperation of fighting a seemingly losing battle. On the other side of the music are the sound effects, and as is long-standing tradition, UMK3 is home to some truly fun and sometimes ridiculous sound effects. The sounds of punches and kicks landing, rubble breaking during a stage transition, blood splattering, or even the sound of an attack thudding off a block are all solid and provide a real sense of weight, something we'll touch on again later in gameplay. Okay, the elephant in the room. The screams, grunts, and yells of the fighters in this game are absolutely ridiculous. Here, take a listen. Pure gold. As silly as they are, these sounds did help in catching players' attention and remains one of my favorite sillier aspects of the franchise as a whole. But where is this sound coming from? What's it attached to when it comes to the game itself? Well, I think it's time we moved on to... UMK3 is not a game for those who don't play their fighting games aggressively. Sure, it's entirely possible and viable to choose a more defensive character, but the bread and butter of this game is its in-your-face nature. We are working with the same button layout of the prior two Mortal Kombat installments, but this time with the addition of a run button, which does just what it says. This button changes everything about this game. Whereas before you had to either rely on the slow walk speed or jump into the battle, the run button allows you to close the gap between yourself and your opponent almost instantly. This means you have one of two options. Either have fast enough reflexes to evade, or be ready to meet their onslaught head on. This is a game that encourages forward movement, keeping the pressure on your opponent up close. Here's where we'll briefly touch on the dial-a-combo system, unique to the various versions of 3. Unlike prior installments, all versions of 3 are built with this system, which essentially allows players to press only a handful of simple buttons consecutively to pull off a fancy-looking combo string. Connecting punches not only lets off a satisfying crunch, but causes the screen to shake slightly, adding to the sheer bone-crunching impact. I mentioned how this game was designed to be played up close and aggressively, but that doesn't mean you necessarily have to. While maybe not true zoners, characters like Unmasked Sub-Zero and Jax have a fair amount of ranged options that a particularly skilled player could use to play keep away. Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3's roster is dynamic, and while many play similarly, this game boasts characters that excel at many different types of play. It might seem like many of these characters play the exact same, but extended time with this game will reveal the small nuances that separate them. For example, Kung Lao is head and shoulders above the rest of the cast for his unique ability to control the airspace of the arena and maneuver tight spaces and turns that other characters can't match. Cyrax might be one of the weaker characters in the game physically, but strategically placing his bombs throughout a match can make for navigating a tricky minefield. Playing offensively or defensively, UMK3 is a game of seconds. The fights that unfold against other opponents or the CPU are so fast and aggressive that you have to be in the moment every moment, for that could mean the difference between victory and defeat. There have been so many times that I've been playing a few rounds nearly losing, and one well-timed split-second uppercut secures the victory. Nothing else in fighting games will ever come close to these kinds of moments and giving me that dopamine rush of feeling skilled. Like any fighting game, UMK3 will reward you for mastering its timing and rhythm. I'm only going to briefly touch on the AI, only insofar as mentioning it's much like the AI of its predecessor. It's unforgiving, it cheats, and it's meant to drain your mom's purse of her quarters. There are ways of pretty easily manipulating the computer, but this would pretty much just involve repeating a specific set of moves to bait the AI into attacking, and then getting close to maximize damage, rinse and repeat. Maybe not the most fun way to play, but it is an efficient and often speedrun way to complete the game.
Sub-Zero.
Thought to have been vanquished in the Shaolin tournament, the original Sub-Zero suddenly returns and competes.
Melina.
Murdered by her twin sister Kitana and revived by Shao Kahn, Melina is deployed on the front lines of the invasion as a vicious and bloodthirsty warrior. Melina also possesses the ability to read her twin sister's thoughts, keeping Shao Kahn's regime one step ahead.
Ermac.
Ermac is a total enigma to all who come in contact with him, his past shrouded in mystery. It is believed he exists as a lifeform composed of the souls of thousands of extinguished outworld warriors.
Rain.
Born in Kitana's home realm of Edenia, Rain was smuggled away from the realm as a small child shortly after Shao Kahn's takeover. Thousands of years later he resurfaces, betraying his homeland and siding with Shao Kahn.
Noob Saibot.
Noob Saibot emerges from the darkest region of reality, known only as the Netherrealm. He belongs to a group known as the Brotherhood of Shadow, cult rumored to worship a fallen elder god. His mission is to observe the conflict for Earth's survival and report back to his enigmatic leaders.
Smoke.
In his human form, Smoke was a lethal assassin working for the Lin Kuei. But when they decided to automate their ninjas, Smoke is caught in the middle. He becomes a cyborg assassin, whose human form would exist as a memory forevermore. These are the secret and extra fighters available should you know the proper codes, or if you owned the Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis versions of UMK3. As far as I'm aware, Noob Saibot and Rain are the aforementioned console exclusives, and I say as far as I'm aware solely because I often forget that Rain is not in the arcade version of UMK3, and apparently I'm not alone because I found a thread on Reddit questioning the very same thing. This is the power of the mystique that Mortal Kombat had back in the day. If I can also sidetrack for a second, I just wanted to mention Rain's ending because it is absolutely wild. Rain fights valiantly for the Emperor, Shao Kahn, but it would be Kahn's own stepdaughter, Princess Kitana, who would turn Rain against him. Like Kitana, Rain's origins also come from their former realm of Edenia. He learns that his father was once a general and died at the hands of Shao Kahn himself. Enraged by this, Rain joins Kitana in aligning with Earthrealm's warriors, but his allegiance comes under question when he mysteriously disappears during an extermination squad attack. To prove his loyalty, he embarked on a suicide mission to destroy Shao Kahn and end his menace once and for all. Holy shit! That is a wildly different path they went down for Rain. Considering where he'll end up in Mortal Kombat lore, this is definitely quite different, but interesting. But I'm seriously sidetracking, so let's get back to the game proper. Of course, Mortal Kombat isn't Mortal Kombat without a veritable treasure trove of hidden secrets and strange messages. We touched on some of those secret characters, so let me show you the actual combat codes to activate them when prompted. The number value indicates the amount of times you and player 2 need to press each respective button. Now we'll take a look at Shao Kahn's treasures, rewarded to you upon beating the game. They are as follows: your character's ending, a game of Galaga, a fight against Ermac, a fight against Noob Saibot, random select, fatality demonstrations 1 through 3, a fight against both Noob Saibot and Ermac, a fight against those two alongside Mileena and Masked Sub-Zero, and finally the Supreme Demonstration, a showing off of every single fatality, friendship, and animality. Oh yeah, I should probably mention those. So we all know Mortal Kombat's signature feature is that of fatalities. Mortal Kombat 2 would introduce new ways to end a match with fatalities and friendships, and 3 would take things even further by giving each character the ability to kill their opponent by transforming into a unique animal and essentially mauling them to death. Hello, hi, this is me in editing. For some reason in my original recording, I completely neglected to mention that you need to perform a mercy before doing your animality. In order to perform a mercy, you have to make it to the 3rd round. Clear half screen, hold the run button, and click down 3 times. Doing that will grant your opponent a portion of their health back. When you beat them again, that's when you put in your animality input to do the thing. Anyways, back to the video. Given the popularity in the same era of properties like Beast Wars and Animorphs, it's really no wonder why Midway decided to include this, aside from just wanting a new option to finish your opponent. Many of these characters' transformations make sense. Others are... a penguin? Covered the secret characters in the home versions, but we'd be here literally all day long if we went over every last secret in their respective versions. If you're interested, I will be linking a website, mksecrets.net. It's been an invaluable resource for all things Mortal Kombat and vital to the research of this video. In order to play as the human version of Smoke, simply hover your icon over Robot Smoke and hold High Punch, High Kick, Block, and Run when selecting Smoke, holding it until the round starts. If done correctly, you will transform into Human Smoke just before Fight appears. Moveset-wise, he's essentially a turbo version of Scorpion and easily one of the top tier characters in the game. That's not all. If you unlock all of the hidden characters whose codes we just looked at, You'll also be able to fight on a new stage. I'm not pronouncing that. It's an anagram for Classic Sub-Zero. It'll be available, and it's also known as Ermac's Portal and the Lost World. If you didn't own a home version of UMK3 back in the day, your chances of playing as Noob Saibot were slim. Unless you can get yourself to a WaveNet machine, that is. Essentially, WaveNet machines were an early and rudimentary version of NetPlay consisting of interconnected arcade machines. And the earliest incarnations of Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 tournaments utilized this technology. However, it was minimally distributed, and if you wanted to play as Noob Saibot using a WaveNet machine, you simply had to pick Kano and hold back, low punch, low kick, high punch, and block until the match begins. Kinda makes me wonder where that particular version of the game ended up. Maybe it's lost media these days. Someone tell me in the comments if there's a readily available WaveNet version of UMK3 out there. Here's a fun detail. Pick Sub-Zero, either one. Wait until your opponent's health has reached the danger zone and let off a freeze blast. Dan Forden will pop out, but instead of saying his usual toasty, he'll hit you with... In a similar vein, doing the Pit Fatality in Scorpion's Lair and holding high punch on both controls will prompt Dan Forden to say, "Crispy!" Hold down block on both controls to hear Shao Kahn tell you the same thing.
Crispy.
And hold both to hear both.
Crispy.
Now I'd like to take a moment to talk about a couple of eerie oddities discovered while researching. What you're about to hear is an audio file discovered on the original Mortal Kombat 3 CD-ROM.
"'Tis the voice of the lobster. I heard him declare, you have hit me too brown, I must sugar my hair. As a duck with its eyelids, so he with his nose trims his belt and his buttons and turns down his toes. When the sands are all dry, he is gay as a lark, and will talk in contemptuous tones of the shark. But when the tide rises and sharks are around, his voice has a timid and tremulous sound. I passed by his garden and marked with one eye, while the owl and the panther were sharing a pie. The panther took pie crust and gravy and meat, while the owl had the dish as its share of the treat. When the pie was all finished, the owl as a boon was kindly permitted to pocket the spoon, while the panther received knife and fork with a growl, and concluded the banquet.
Most things contained within are minuscule bits like hit sound effects. What you heard there instead is what sounds like someone reading a poem over distorted music. I've dug everywhere, and while I can find reference to the file and where it's from, it seems to have absolutely zero relevance to the game whatsoever. The reverse audio poem, for the curious, is called "'Tis the Voice of the Lobster" by Lewis Carroll. Yeah, that was a new one to me too. Now we move on to another bit of audio that's legitimacy has not been determined. A bit of lore surrounding this game is the death of Earthrealm warrior Johnny Cage, hence his absence from the roster. What you are about to hear is supposedly audio hidden within the files, but never used, of Johnny Cage's funeral.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to mourn the death of Johnny Cage, killed at the hands of Kentaro during his second Mortal Kombat. He was only 29 years old.
It has a definite unsettling quality to it, but I can't say for certain that it's real. The safe bet is to say that it's simply fan-made, as the practice of fabricating alleged hidden secrets is nothing new to Mortal Kombat, and has stemmed back to the earliest days of the franchise. I wanted to take this section of video to go over the vast amount of peripheral material surrounding UMK3. Here is an official arcade secrets guide for the vanilla version of MK3 that I own, which I will shamelessly admit to having deferred to for more than one element of this video. I am also the lucky owner of an incredible unmasked Sub-Zero figure via Storm Collectibles, which unfortunately I believe no longer possesses the Mortal Kombat license. If those don't strike your fancy, many toys made under the Mortal Kombat Trilogy name were produced in the 90s, but we'll save that can of worms for another day. And if you are as big a fan of the music as I am, the UMK3 soundtrack vinyl is available through Enjoy the Ride Records. In terms of clothing, plenty of people sell UMK3 merchandise, but nothing could give you that throwback feeling like wearing this vintage tiny-ass logo shirt from '95. There's also this random shirt, which I only ever see listed as Mortal Kombat 3 shirt, so there you go. I'm so glad I get to squeeze in a tidbit regarding the '95 Mortal Kombat movie, because if you were patient enough to stick around for the credits, they straight up give you combat codes. I don't know how many people back in '95 were prepared to remember them or jot them down, but they're there. Let's take a look at some ads. There's this absolutely bizarre one from the home console versions. Better get used to being in this position again? What the hell do you mean by that? Here's a neat preview print ad for the game. Or this amusing little number. Slightly less safe than playing chicken blindfolded on the M1 with your legs tied together whilst juggling live grenades with one hand tied behind your back as a rabid pit bull leaps at you. Yeah, that's a pretty apt description for the game, if I do say so. I could honestly go on and 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 on, but we really need to move past all this. Despite Shao Kahn's best efforts, the remainder of Earth's warriors band together and end his menace, saving reality and restoring the billions of souls lost to his tyranny. And that's it. That's curtains on Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. I realize this game is far in the rearview mirror of this long-running franchise, but I hope you come away with a new appreciation for what this game does and says on its own, removed from the context of all the games that followed it. This is a really special game, and Mortal Kombat as a whole would probably look so much different without it. I have so many special moments and lifelong memories attached to this game that I'm not at all afraid to say that this is my favorite video game of all time, for many reasons. Thanks, UMK3. You've helped this schmuck more than you could know. Thanks for watching, and please leave a like and share if this meant something to you or you just enjoyed it in general. It helps a lot getting my silly little video on a 90s fighting game out there. Who knows, maybe a friend of yours or maybe even your Meemaw will like it too. Until next time, and thanks again.
Ooh. That's good.
Shang Tsung.
Look at that Saibot.
Ignore Shang Tsung.
Saibot
Combinations
and
for Shang
Havoc.
Tsung.